זה שיר פשוט, זה שיר קצר, אולי נשמע טיפה מוזר, אבל תדע, כי זו עובדה, שאלוהים אוהב אותך, והוא רואה, והוא שומע.
Well, hello. How is everyone doing? Hi, I'm Charli with the Practical Portion. It's so exciting to be here with you. I have to say again, what a fun time I had last week with my friend, Elisa Rangel, who hung out with me to chat with you guys. She and her husband, Joe, are one of the founders of the Olive Branch in Colorado Springs. And I just adore them. And it was just a blessing to have her here. And I pray that you go back and watch, because I just love when we get to hear from all aspects of our, I want to say, dimensions of everything. Kind of like when you read different, people always ask me, what is the translation of the Bible that you read? And I'm like, I read a lot of different translations because I want to be able to see all of them, and I want to get deep into it. So that's why I love talking to different people. So I just want to say, I may forget, so I want to tell you guys, look forward to a new podcast that I'm actually launching on September 20th. It's called Messy Antics. It is going to be so much fun, and I will be interviewing people in our faith walk. It'll be fun. We're going to be talking about things that are messy, like when it just doesn't go like you thought it was going to go. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I really want to encourage you to keep an eye out for it. I'll keep sharing with you when it's going to be coming and posting so that you can get ready to add that to your playlist, because I promise it's going to be fun. I promise we'll keep it lighthearted. But at the same time, I think we all need to realize we're all in this walk together. And sometimes this Messiah walk, this walk with Messiah as messianic believers, it can get messy sometimes. So it's going to be fun. We're going to jump into Tetzei. Tetzei. I think that's the right way. So we're going to be in Deuteronomy 21. So if you want to grab your scriptures, we're going to be in Deuteronomy 21:10, and we're going to go all the way to 25:19. And then I just kind of, before we even start that, I want to read, did I mark it? I sure did. The other part of this week's Parsha is Isaiah 54, 1-10. And I just want to read that today because I really felt led by the Holy One to read this out loud. And I want to make it our prayer. So Father, we just dedicate this to you. And I thank you already that your word is alive and it is already sanctified and it is holy. And so we just step into that now, Father. And I pray, Father, that you would not let anything come out of my mouth that isn't you. We just bless you. Amen. So in Isaiah 54, he says, sing, barren one, who has not given birth, and burst into singing and shout, you who have not travailed, for more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married one, says Adonai. Enlarge the place of your tent. Stretch out your tabernacle curtains. Do not hold back. Lengthen your cords. Strengthen your stakes. Are you hearing? Get ready. Get ready for advancement. Get ready for the blessing. It's time to get ready. Get your foundations. Get your systems in check. Get everything ready, because he's about to expand your territory and he wants you to be ready because he's a loving Father. For you will spread out to the right hand and to the left, and your offspring will possess the nations and will resettle the desolate cities. Fear not, for you will not be ashamed, nor cringe, for you will not be disgraced. For you will forget the shame of your youth. Can I get an amen out there? We get to forget the shame of our youth. I'm going to turn on the private chat. Please say hi to me if you're watching live. And if you're on YouTube, please remember to hit subscribe but say hello, because I want to know what you're hearing from the Lord as we read this. I love this. You will forget the shame of your youth, and you will remember the reproach of your widowhood no more. For your maker is your husband. Adonai Zavaot is his name. I love that. We can think of Hannah's prayer. The Holy One of Israel is your Redeemer, and he will be called God of all the earth. He's the God that fights for you. Sometimes we don't feel like no one's fighting for us. No one's in our corner. And he's saying, I'm the God that fights for you. For Adonai has called you back, life of a wife deserted and grieved in spirit, like a wife of one's youth that is rejected, says your God. For a brief moment, I deserted you, but I will regather you with great compassion. In a surge of anger, I may have hid my face for a moment, he says, but it was with everlasting kindness. Sometimes we don't get it, but sometimes he hides our face, right? Hi, Marie. Hi, Marie. Hi, Mallory. I will have compassion on you, says Adonai, your Redeemer. For this is like the waters of Noah to me. For as I swore that the waters of Noah should no more cover the earth, so I have sworn that I will not be angry with you, nor will I rebuke you. Though the mountains depart and the hills be shaken, my love will not depart from you, nor will my covenant of peace be shaken, says Adonai, who has compassion on you. Afflicted one, storm-tossed, unconsoled, behold. Did you find yourself in that list? Behold, I set your stones in antimony, lay your foundations with sapphires. I mean, beautiful. He's saying, I have to take this off. It's banging. He's saying, I'm going to make beautiful stuff for you. Here we go. Okay. Make your pinnacles of rubies and your gates of crystal and all your walls of precious stones, and all your children will be taught by Adonai, and your children will have great shalom. I have to keep reading because this is one of my favorites. And he says, in righteousness, you will be established. You will be far from oppression, for you will not fear, and from terror, for it will not come near you. Behold, anyone fiercely attacking is not from me. So when you're thinking, well, maybe God's doing this to me, he's saying, anyone fiercely attacking you, it is not from me. Whoever stirs up strife with you will fall because of you. They're trying to stir up strife. He's going to vindicate you. Behold, I created the smith who blows the fire of coals and produces a weapon for its work. And I created the destroyer to ruin. But he's saying no weapon formed against you will prosper. And you will condemn every tongue. He's saying, I may have created the things that bring harm, but none of that harm is going to come to you, because no weapon formed against you shall prosper. And every tongue that will condemn you and rises against you in judgment, it will fail, because this is the heritage of Adonai's servants. Their vindication is from me. It is a declaration of Adonai. So I don't know if you heard yourself in there and if that was for you, but I really felt like I needed to read that, because I feel like he's saying, get ready, get ready. I mean, I don't know about you, but I really feel like, hey, he's coming, and I'm listening for that trumpet blast. It might be this year. If not, I'm still ready. And one of the things I was talking to my friend Deborah yesterday, we were saying, listen, hey, Amy, we're saying, listen, here's the thing. We're supposed to have our oil lamps ready, right? The problem is most of us are expecting other people to fill our oil lamps. And we're not filling our own lamps. We're sitting back. We're letting other people take care of us. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But listen, he's saying it's time to fill your own lamps. The 10 virgins, the 5 that were ready, the other 5 didn't have the oil, right? I want you to have oil in your lamp. I want you to get inspired to spend time with him. Let him fill you up. Let him show you the areas where the oil is a little lacking. And not expect everybody else to do it for you. It's time for us to grow up. I'm sorry, but it's time. He's calling us all out to grow up. Okay, I want to encourage you also to read Galatians. In Galatians I'm going to say chapter 3 and 4 this week. Would you just add that? Like, you're going to read that, because it really is kind of commentary on what we're going to go through today in Deuteronomy. It's going to talk about a lot of the same things. So let's hop in. We're in Tetzei, and here it is. What does love look like? I laugh because we have, at the conference, one of the girls who was the speaker there, she did a thing, what's love got to do with it, and played the Tina Turner song. And as I was reading through this, I'm hearing the song playing. It's like, love has everything to do with it. Love has everything to do with it. Again, talking to another person yesterday, and we were talking about sometimes it's hard because everyone's like, you just got to love. You just got to love. We can't judge. We just have to love. Sometimes that gets a little hard. But I promise you, sometimes love may not look like what you think it is. It doesn't mean you're tolerant of evil. You're not tolerant of bad behavior. Love sometimes is discipline, right? He says that he disciplines the ones he loves. So discipline is love. Discipline means he loves me. If you see kids that are running around like wild banshees, the parents, it's love. It's hard to discipline your children and say you have to stay home and this isn't okay. Now, again, you're going to walk this out in love and you're going to pray and ask yourself, is this my weed to pull? But I just want to encourage you as we go through this to look through this at this whole section through the eyes of love. I love one of my sections even says when chapter 22 starts, it says love in practice. So I think that's cool. So let me stay on my notes. Let's see how I'm going to do. I'm trying to see your comments as you're coming in live from Facebook. Let's see. So here's interesting. He starts out this chapter saying, when you go out, Tetzei, when you go out. The first part says, when you go out to war, Machaneh, guard yourself. When you go out to war, Machaneh, there you go. You can choose. Guard yourself. Later, we're going to hear him say, when you go out, Machaneh, it's spelled a little bit different when you go out of the camp. It's really, really important. He's telling us before we jump into this, he's saying, I want you to secure yourself. Didn't you kind of hear this? Even in Isaiah, he's saying, I want you to strengthen your territory. I want you to open up your tent. I want you to get things ready. Because when you go out, I want you to be ready when you go out. I don't know. I am really feeling this in my own ministries, in the Rooted Cafe, in my friendships, in my relationships. I'm really hearing him say, come on, I need you to get ready. I want you to shore things up. It's important for you to secure yourself, not be all scattered and vulnerable, but ordered and in unity. I was reading some of that in the Taste of Torah. Do I even have that book? I have it. Oh, yep, I do. I was reading that in the Taste of Torah earlier. It's really important that we're not scattered and vulnerable. He doesn't want them to step into the land scattered and vulnerable. He doesn't want them stepping out of their dwellings in their camps scattered and vulnerable, but ordered and in unity. What he then goes on to talk about what's opposing you. We can talk about hasatan, opposition, what's coming at me when I step out of my home, what's opposing me, what am I preparing for? A lot of us want to blame Satan for everything, but sometimes it's just our own evil inclination. And can I just be real? I think most of the time it's just our evil inclination. I think most of the time we're trying to blame this other spiritual entity, and it really is just us, our choices, our bad behavior, choices, seeds that we have sown. We're reaping the crops, and we're trying to blame Hasatan for something that we actually did. One of the things we can look at what is opposition? What is our enemy? Our enemy is anything that opposes good. It is anything that wants to attack spiritual values of the creator of our kingdom work. So I want you to stay tuned, because I know as we go through this, everyone, as we go through this Parsha, buckle up, Buttercup, because it's controversial. We're going to step into some controversial things, because when we go out, if we're not girded up, if we don't have our good foundations, if we're not ready, if we are not protected against the enemies that we're going to go against, even if the enemy is me, the enemy within, right? We're going to get controversial in these sections. And I promise you, I'm sure I'm going to find you in something and step on your toes, stir you up. So would you guys just all right now just say, we love you, Charli. I want you asking questions. I want you filling your own lamps full of oil. Why do you believe this? Why do you believe what you believe? And maybe there's some things in here that are going to you're going to question. I don't want you to get so caught up on, this is not a salvation issue. This is living a life full of blessings. Some of this stuff might be life and death. Okay. So, but before we do that, I want to start something new. I want to call it shelf indulgences. So if you are watching on YouTube, I'm going to be putting these links and to everything in the show notes. But shelf indulgences during this time, I just want to go through some stuff that I'm reading, some things I'm excited about. Many of you know my girl, Gail Heaton, my colleague. Love, love, love Gail. Gail, she's one of our instructors on the Rooted Cafe. She is also one of our board members. She is also the founder of Suddenly Siblings. So for those of you who maybe are bringing in foster children or you've adopted children, what a great resource, Suddenly Siblings. And she's got great books for kids who suddenly become new siblings and how they transition for that. So I love her for that. But I'm just going to tell you this. These books are phenomenal. She began writing the Parsha points for us through the ancient Near East perspective. She does Parsha points, and then she's now doing Help, It's the Haftarah. She did that for us for 1 year. So all of that is included in our Rooted Cafe memberships. And now she's put it in book form. So this one is for Exodus, and they're called Through Ancient Eyes. And this just came out. The second one is for Exodus, Genesis, Exodus. And she said she's finishing up Leviticus right now, Through Ancient Eyes. And it's really a walk through the Torah based on the insights of the ancient Near East. Why? Because the Bible wasn't written, it was written for us, but it was written to those living in the ancient Near East. And sometimes we need a little help interpreting that, because it's kind of like, I don't live in South America. And so I'm sure there's customs and traditions that I would be lost in, and maybe they would talk about things that I wouldn't get it. It would be a funny joke, or maybe there would be this cultural thing that I wouldn't understand. And so this just really is going to give you dimensionality, and it's written it really easy for you. Okay, I have two more in my shelf indulgences. Humbled by His Presence by Hulda Dawid. Again, I'm going to write these in, but Humbled by His Presence by Hulda Dawid. I think this is really apropos right now as we are in the month of Elul. The King is in the field. It's a 21-day devotional meeting Yahweh at the threshing floors. So I just thought this is really sweet. What a great little gift too. They're simple. They're short. They're like, they're literally one page with some scripture verses. It's kind of a nice little quick devotion. Many of you who don't have a lot of time. So I wanted to share that one. And then the final one I want to share with you, because as we're heading into High Holy Days, I have the blessing and the privilege of being friends with Valerie Moody. And many of you have this as your handbook for the feast, but the Feast of Adonai by Valerie Moody, valuable, valuable, valuable resource. And one of the things I think I appreciate about it the most is that, first of all, she tells you why. Why are we celebrating this? What are some words that you might hear around these feasts and festival? What do they mean? And then she goes in and talks about there's she has recipes. She has traditional things that people do. So I just would love for you guys to take a minute, grab one of these, and even for a friend. Some of the people are like, what is the etrog? Like, why do we have it? I love being in a spiral bound, because I'm like to be able to turn it like this if I'm doing a recipe, and I'm able to go through and do it. So I wanted to share this. She has a course written for us, beautiful teachings in the Rooted Cafe, not only on prayer, but also on all the feasts and festivals. She does a phenomenal job on this. So again, it's why Christians should look at the biblical feasts, the Feasts of Adonai. Okay, that is my shelf indulgence for this episode. A lot of us need one more book, like we need a hole in the head. But sometimes I do have a lot of you who ask me, like, what are you reading? What do you recommend? So I wanted to share a few things that are on my shelf that I grab often. And I'm going to start doing that every week. So we just have a few things that I can share with you about. Okay. So I've asked a lot, like, how did I get this from the portion? Like, how did you get this, Charli? Like, how did you go from, I read this and I didn't get anything that you just got? Like, how did you even get this? I want to encourage you, if you go to therootedcafe.com, if you go up in there under resources, it's like our store and resources, there's a tab. It's all free. There's 2 very quick courses you can go through. One of them, Gail Heaton actually did that course for us called How to Study the Bible. Is phenomenal. They're quick little 5-7-minute videos. I think there's 5. I'm not sure. Love it. It's great. Second one is the Blue Letter Bible for Not So Dummies. And we just basically go through and show you how to use the Blue Letter Bible, how to look at a scripture, take it to the Hebrew, how to understand it from the Hebrew perspective, because we don't want to know it from the definition and the Greek perspective. We want to know it from a Hebraic roots. We want to know the deeper understanding of the words in the scriptures. And we show you how to do that. And it's not too hard for you. We're told in Deuteronomy, it's not too hard for you. So again, I want to get you ready. I want to show you how to fill your lamp. And this is one of the ways that I can do this. Okay, as we jump into this section, one of the first things we talk about is, women were taken during war. It was part of the pillaging, right? They would take women and children. And I am so blessed that I serve the God, only God, who loves us so much that when we are treated like property because of customs of an age, of an era, that he loves us so much that he brings dignity. You'll see it bringing dignity to her. This woman who's been taken into the home as property from spoils of war. And for her, you would think, well, she has to cut her nails and shave her head and do all these things. This was not about humiliating her. She's grieving. She's just been ripped out of her culture. She's just been ripped away from her family and then brought into another family and been like, there you go. Here's your new husband. Go sleep with him. And he loves us so much. He loves these women even so much, knowing that they're going to end up being enculturated. They're going to come into this culture. They're going to be bearing children that will continue on the lineage of the Israelites, right? The Hebrew people. So you cut your nails, you cut your hair. And what happens is it's also requiring this man it gives her this freedom, and it's requiring him to now care about her more than just how she looks. She's getting rid of everything that identified herself. I mean, talk about an identity crisis, right? But then we're told in verse 14 that he's not to treat her like merchandise, that if he decides that he doesn't want to keep her, he doesn't get to sell her. So people couldn't collect a bunch of women and then have like a slave trade, human trafficking. That was not it. He was saying, if you brought a woman in as a wife, you need to honor her and you need to give her a writ of divorce. You need to take care of her properly. You're not going to trade and sell her around. And you're going to let her have the time to grieve and let her shave her head, let her hair, as her hair's growing out. Then I believe, Charli's understanding, I feel like this is also a time for this husband to love her for something more than just how she looks. He gets to see a visual representation of what she's actually going through, the identity crisis she's going through, what she's having to give up. She would have worn a head covering, but still he would have saw that. And if he didn't want her, he's to set her free. He wasn't allowed to trade her around. Then we jump into the stoning of the son. If a son is rebellious, if he's not working, if he's doing, it says that you're to take him and they're going to stone him to death. I want to say, to my understanding, everyone I've asked, everywhere I've read, there is no reported incidents of a son being stoned. But the emphasis on here, though, is how important it is to honor your father and your mother. If you can't honor a father and a mother that you can see, how are you going to honor one that you can't see? If you can't honor a father and a mother that you don't hear, that you don't really understand where they're coming from, how are you going to honor a God, a loving heavenly Father? How are you going to honor when he says do something? How are you going to be obedient and not rebellious and not question everything? And well, that might be me sometimes. How are you going to do that if you can't practice that here with your father and mother? I want you to see the 10 words as you're reading this, because I believe that we're walking out the 10 words through here. We're showing how to love, about identity. And I want to address a question that I get a lot. How do I honor a father or a mother who's not honorable? I want to encourage you in this, but you honor the position, you honor the divine spark that's in them, the breath of God, the breath of Adonai, the breath of the Creator, the King of Kings, the Creator of the universe. You honor that breath in them and that divine spark. but it doesn't mean you have to be in relationship with them. And I want to speak specifically to abuse, because a lot of times those that have been traumatized and abused by by a parent find these sections very difficult. So I'm prayerfully tiptoeing through this, so that I'm praying right now that you get freedom in this and you're able to read it with an understanding. You can honor the position by the position that they brought you into this world. They brought life to you. When their name or something's come up, you can cover them, walk backwards and cover them. It does not mean that you can cover the sin, but you don't have to cover the crime. I feel like that's a t-shirt. You can cover the sin, but you don't have to cover the crime. The crime requires correction. There is consequences for their crimes. So, but what you can do, I'm going to give an example. If you have had a experience with a father or mother that was their legal issues had to be brought up or should have been brought up, and you're saying, are you telling me I have to forgive and I have to honor a father who molested me as a child? And I'm saying yes. You have to honor the position of fatherhood. You have to honor the fact that God chose that man to birth you into this world. And it is a choice is love. This isn't long enough of a program to go into that. I'm learning that this week with my friend Elisa, who was here last week. We were talking a lot about that. Is when people have a choice to make bad choices. And that is love. Love gives people choices. Love also redeems those choices for the other generations, because remember, he may punish to 3, but he loves to 1,000, right? So how do you do that? You keep boundaries. You don't have to be in a relationship with them. They do need to pay for their crime, but you're going to honor that position. And it might just be, my father is God I'm trusting the Father that he chose that man to bring me into this world. And that's all I'm comfortable sharing. And unless you're going through therapy, I mean, I feel like I could go down rabbit trails. I just want to say this. You don't have to be in a relationship with them. You do have to forgive them. You don't know all the details of why they are, committed those crimes and are have a mental issue, apparently, because I think that's a mental issue, what God needs to heal in them. So you do have to forgive them, but you do not have to be in a relationship with them, and you can keep them at a distance. I hope that's clear. I can resound to me if that's was made clear to you, if you feel like there's clarity in that, but I just want to speak that piece over you. So then we jump into 21:22. I love this one. Don't you guys love this? It says that this is sin with a death sentence. You're hung on a tree. If you commit a sin that has a death sentence, you're hung on a tree. Is there a hyperlink to anyone, maybe 2,000 years later plus, of someone else who hung on a tree because of a death sentence? The death sentence wasn't for him. I mean, it was in that day. They said he was blasphemous and that was a death sentence. But the death sentence was ours that he took, right? This isn't new. This hanging on a tree, being hung for a death sentence is not new. And also it says not to leave him overnight, because why? It defiles the land. There was a death sentence on us, on me, on you. When he hung on that tree for our death, that death sentence, it's so that we don't have to suffer death. That's the law of sin and death. It isn't Torah. The Torah is just the instructions for a blessed life. The law of sin and death, was there a penalty that has to be paid? And it's eternal death. And he came to give eternal life so that you don't have to spend eternity in death. I know that's so hard to grasp, right? But what if you think of it this way? What if someone took a bullet for you? I mean, what if someone took a bullet for you? What if someone said, here, take my life and not hers or not his? Take my life. How would you live differently? Would you live differently? Would you feel like, wow, that person died so that I could live. So I really feel like I need to live my life to the fullest because they lost their life for me. So now I need to live for both of us. I mean, that's how I think. Does anyone else think that way? But would your life look different? You can go back and read in Mark 15, starting around, I think in verse 42-ish. You'll see that Joseph goes in and gets the body, right? He takes it down because we are told in here, we're told here, you're not supposed to leave it overnight. Now, when you read the stories about Jesus, you're going to understand what that's about, why they had to take him down, why his body couldn't hang overnight. So if you're new and you haven't heard that before, now you understand that there was actually protocols that the Holy One put in place right here in Deuteronomy 21 about how we're to handle those things. And then we jump into chapter 22. What does love look like? What does it look like? Because I feel like I love in my version, like I said before, it says love in practice. Because we can tell you love is patient, love is kind, love doesn't hold on to grudges, love is faithful. I mean, we can go through 1 Corinthians 13. We can tell you what love is. We can tell you the fruits of love. We can tell you how we're supposed to behave with love. But this is practical. This is practical. And yes, this is written to ancient Near East peoples, but it's for us as well. And we can sit and you can ask the questions. Okay, the first one, don't let your neighbor's animal run around without helping them. If your neighbor's ox is in a ditch, you're supposed to help get it out. What does that look like, God, for me now? I feel like that's an easy one, right? What does that look like? When you're seeing a stray dog running around and you're like, and it's not just, we'll just say that at first, a stray dog, you pick it up, you take it back to the person. Okay, that's an easy one. But sometimes there's, for them, an ox in a ditch, that's their way of making income, right? So what if you see someone that they're struggling in their income producing activities, they're struggling because of something of theirs is broken. Gosh, how do I bring this into the current century? What if their computer's broken? We're in a situation right now where our administrative amazing community manager, Sydney, her computer's breaking. We're teasing and saying it's held on by duct tape and paper clips. And we're raising money right now. So if you guys go into the portion or if you go on our sites, we're showing these cute t-shirts. I'll put a link down in the show notes also for these cute t-shirts that we came up with. It says, I fought the law and the law won. And we're raising money to buy her computer because her ox is in a ditch. She's one of our sisters. Her ability to produce income for her to be able to work for us is in a ditch. So we need to help. Does that make sense? When you ask him, like, Father, what does this mean? So what does an ox do for those people? Well, again, it's the thing that helps them produce income. So ask him, Father, there are people around me that I've just been oblivious to, that there's things that they need to help them make an income. Maybe they can't drive because their tire isn't okay. Maybe my daughter had a bad tire. We got tires for her car because she needed that. That was an ox in a ditch, and we could do it. So I want you to pray about these things as you're going through, as opposed to just waiting for someone to tell you, oh, I think it means this. Ask each little thing. So women and men, it says, don't wear each other's clothes. I think a lot of us want to jump past this, especially this day and age. It used to be okay for us to talk about this. Now we have to be so careful. I'm not going to be careful. I'm just not. So here it goes. Women and men don't wear each other's clothes. It's confusing. I'm not meaning that you have to wear a dress if you're a woman and you can't ever wear pants. And I know that it's become the norm for cross-dressing and for the huge identity crisis. Right here is the remedy to identity crisis, saying your identity matters to me. It matters that you know who you are and you're solid in who you are. Because remember, when I come back in the very beginning, for Tetzei, he says, when you go out to war against your enemies and Adonai, your God, hands them over to you and takes them captives, he's telling you, I want you to get ready, get foundational, get good systems. I want you to feel confident in your identity. I want you to know who you are. And when we're not sure if we're a man or a woman, or we don't know if we're a cat, if we're not as sure who we are, we have to be sure who we are. We have to be confident, not question marks, not symbols that represent who we are. All of that is counterproductive to what the Holy One is trying to tell us here in these chapters. He's saying, it's not that I'm trying to be well, he's the boss of everything. He is trying to be the boss of everything, but it's because it's for our good. And most of those times when those in the world right now where we're questioning our identity, we're questioning our gender, we're questioning what we're supposed to look like, how we're supposed to dress, there's so much confusion and most of that you'll see the rebellion against authority. And here's this whole area saying, if you can just get in alignment, it's not about control, it's about blessings. It's about that solidifying who you are in Him, right? It's not being confusing. I just think it's really interesting that this is a point right now that's rebelled against. My daughter went to the hospital and had to have a procedure done. And she said it was just horrible. The nurse was apologetic because she had to ask her, what gender do you identify as? What pronoun would you like to use? And then she had to go a step further. What body parts were you born with? Like, that's where we are. And he's saying, I think that's what this is about, is that's confusion. I don't not love someone who's struggling with that. My heart hurts when I see that. I'm like, oh, there is such a deep hole in their soul that they don't get who they're created to be, how amazing their body is, how amazing it is to be a woman, amazing it is to be a man, to walk in your intended purpose. They've lost sight of that. And for some reason, they felt like there's shame in that. And it's sad to me. It's just really sad. And then we hop into we talked about the ox in the ditch. And right in the middle, we do this. And then we go to, you know what? I put a note here that I really like about walking in your purpose. I think isn't it? I think it's the enemy. It's the enemy's plan is to bring confusion, right? Author of confusion. He doesn't want us walking in our purpose. My identity is in Messiah Yeshua. He's my creator, and I was created in His image. And isn't it perfect that the enemy wants to cause us to not be proud of being created in His image and what that looks like? Because He wasn't. So He wants what we have, and He wants to take it away, to kill, steal, and destroy. You know what? If I'm a woman and I choose to present myself as a man, I'm stepping out of the function and the purpose that I was created for. And I feel like, I just feel like we had to bring that one home. Hope you heard the love. If you have family members struggling with this, fast and pray for them, because there's a wound that's deep. And what if instead of being critical, what if you were like, oh, God made you so perfect and has such an amazing plan for your life. He called you and created you on this planet to be this. It doesn't have to, I mean, God, I feel like I'm going to hang out here for a minute. It doesn't have to be, I think that we historically, I'll say the church, but historically as believers, what we've done is said women have to function this specific way and look this specific way. And we have these gender expectations and behavioral expectations. That's not what I'm talking about here, because a lot of times maybe I'm a woman and I'm like, man, I like to fix things. I like sports. I like to hunt. I like to do those things, but I'm a woman and I feel very proud of who I am as a woman. And maybe what's happening now is they're like, well, maybe I'm not a woman because I like man things because people have told me that's what men do. And maybe you're a man and you like to cook, or you like to sew, or you like to do art, or you like to do things that maybe are seen as more feminine. And you're thinking, well, I don't like to hunt and I don't like to do those things, so maybe I am a woman, as opposed to us just operate in your intended function. I mean, even building the tabernacle, you had men sewing and creating and building and art things, and you had other men that were warriors, and you had other men who were teachers. There's just, if we could just say, you own your identity in your body of who you're created to be. And we get that straight and get your identity straight in Messiah Yeshua, then you're set. Is it simple? Yeah. Is it easy? No. Okay. I promise I'm going to move on. the bird is next. So we're talking about a bird, and it says, if there happens to be a bird, and we're in 22, if verse 6, if there happens to be a bird's nest in the front of you along the road, in any tree or on the ground with young ones or eggs, and the hen is sitting on the young or on the eggs, you are not to take the hen with the young. You must certainly let the hen go, but the young you can take for yourself so that it may go well with you and you may prolong your days. Okay. So this is again honoring parenthood. This is about motherhood. It is precious. We're not we're not people who steal the young. We don't steal eggs in a young right out from underneath a mother. We don't do that. That's a wounding. We don't cause woundings like that. That's not who we are. That's not our identity. One of the speakers at our conference, for our homeschool conference recently, for the Raise Them Up conference this year, she was sharing about an insight on that was that we are still those mothers that are sitting on our eggs, even if we have adult children, that the enemy can't come in and take away our kids if we are brooding over them, if we are covering and surrounding them in prayer. So can I just say that to you? You can claim those babies. You can claim, even if they're 30, if they're 40, if they're 50, you can claim 20. Let's keep going down. You can claim them. They're in the nest with you. Stay hovering over them, covering them. I am instantly thinking of the Holy One brooding over us like a mother hen under the wings. The enemy can't come in and snatch us from underneath there because he's covering us. Because that is one of his names. Remember, he created us in his image, both male and female. He's both male and female. He created us to, as he covers and protects us. This is really about the patience of love, because our own desires and selfishness wants to go in and take things when we want it and how we want it and just take care of ourselves. And this whole section is saying, no, you need to wait. There's a time and a place. You need to look and see what other people need. Love is patient. Love is looking for, where can I to help? Love, when you build a house, love puts up a rail so that nobody falls off by accident. It isn't just like, well, it's my house, I can do whatever I want. I'm American. I can do what I want. Well, can you? I mean, this is pre-OSHA. For those of you who live in, I think it's California still has OSHA. This is pre-building codes. This is the OG building code. If you build a house, you make it safe, not just for you, but you make it safe to make sure no one gets hurt when they come over. You do what you need to do to keep it safe for people. That's love. That's what love does. That's what love bears all things, endures all things. Love bears the responsibility of caring for people. We can look at even driving. How are we driving? How are we making sure that, are we watching out for people? Most of us are very defensive drivers, or we'll say offensive drivers. We go out just like, what if we come out thinking, how am I going to watch out for other people? Because that's what I'm supposed to do. That's what love does. Okay. Then we go into a section that says we don't mix things. Now, this can be confusing for a lot of you. Like, what? I'm not supposed to mix my wardrobe. I'm not supposed to wear things that are wool and linen together. We have a lot of blends. I mean, check your t-shirt right now. Is it 100% cotton? Probably not. There's probably some polyester in it or something else, spandex, so that it holds its shape. We aren't supposed to mix things. And I just want you to fill your own lamp full of oil on this one. You're going to have probably a lot of questions. I feel like this hits every single one of us. And I'm going to do my best to give you a platform for you to seek the answers with the Holy One yourself. He says, I don't want you to pollute the things I'm seeing. This is my interpretation. Pollute the intended purpose. Do you guys see this back to don't wear men's clothes, don't wear women's clothes? Don't get confusing. Don't confuse things. Don't pollute the intended purpose. We'll even see don't overwork one for another. Don't twist the threads in an imitation of a tzitzit in 22:12. Don't make an imitation of something that's meant for this. It has an intended purpose. Don't try to be like, oh, that's so cute. I'm going to make decorations and I'm just going to just do this because it's going to be cute and make me look cute. I want you to pray about that. Pray about it. I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying pray about it. There's a thing here. It says, be careful of taking the things that have an intended purpose that are set apart for specific things and blending it. I think this is one of those things you could spend quite a bit of time on and sit and ask, what am I trying to make better by adding things to them? Right? What am I trying to make stronger? Like, oh, I'm going to add some lycra in spandex because I want this to be, that's an idea of what else am I adding to the things, the intended purpose of something because I'm trying to make it better. I think this is a tough one, right? Does anyone else struggle with this? I think we're so removed from the purity of a lot of things. I mean, think about just your food. We're saying don't mix crops, don't mix seeds, don't plant a vineyard with more than one thing. I mean, we do it all the time now. The GMO, it's genetically modified. It means we want to make it better. I want to make it bigger. I want to make it seedless. I'm going to plant 2 different crops. And I mean, we could get crazy here. I'm going to plant 2 different crops so that they what is that called? They're going to come together and I'm going to make a new grape. Because I'm going to graft these 2 in together. I'm going to plant 2 different things so that they pollinate and they make a different apple. I don't know. I don't know what that, I have to spend time with him and ask him. But I think we're so far removed from it. It's been centuries now, thousands of years since he said this is happened. And we have now made it the norm. That it's truly, we're so, I mean, I'll dare to say pagan in this, that we're even, we struggle, I think. I mean, we're like, I want it to have less wrinkles. There's a lot, right? Any questions? What is the intended purpose? Yeah, I think that's it. Just asking God, have I adulterated anything's intended purpose? That you've asked it to be one thing and I have gone in and tried to make it better. Or maybe other people have. And are you asking me to, I have a lot of friends that just wear linen, just wear 100% cotton. I'm not telling you to go into your closet and throw everything away, but I am asking you to ask. I am asking you to, my whole life needs to be in alignment with what he wants. And I don't care, you're rolling your eyes, but he may say, I want you to just wear 100% cotton. So you need to throw some stuff away. Maybe it's just for the point of he wants to teach you to walk in the purity of the intended function of what he's trying to say and what he's trying to do. And maybe he's going to use what you wear to teach you that lesson. Not that that's a salvation issue. I think I started with that as my disclaimer, but it's about, maybe this is about teaching us a lesson, right? And then we talk about the wedding cloth and protecting a bride and being falsely accused, and the husband should be able to take the wedding cloth and be like, yep, I have proof, or the parents should say, yes, I have proof, because see, she was a virgin when you married her. Again, God saying, I'm going to protect women. But I think it goes deeper into this too. I think that we can go back and see it. Yeshua, that wedding cloth, I believe his blood spilled all over it so that the proof, when I'm condemned, he protects me from condemnation. He protects me from the accuser. He says, though my sins were scarlet, I'm white as snow. Why? Because his blood is on there instead of mine. His blood is the proof that I'm pure, that I'm qualified, that I can't be thrown to the curb because he died for me, because he spilt his blood for me. That's the story. I should be stoned. They're saying this is stoned. It's the law of sin and death. Both of them would be stoned if it was an adultery. We see that in here again. A lot of times we just talk about a woman being stoned, but they're clear here. The man and the woman are stoned in that case, in the cases of adultery. But in the case where maybe I was not pure, I would be stoned. That's the law of sin and death. But his love covered that for me. And I don't think I live like I really understand that. I don't think I live like I understand the fact that a good spouse, a good husband, if he's in love with his bride and maybe she doesn't bleed, because you guys, there can be issues with physically that maybe a woman would not bleed. Can you imagine? But a loving, sensitive husband, there have been stories and there are documented where a man would cut his finger, prick his finger, and bleed on the cloth so he would cover her. And we know that our groom who's coming back for us did that for us. And I don't think I live like that all the time. I think I forget. I think I've taken it for granted because he's not right here and it's kind of hard. And it's hard enough with a husband who's with me all the time. How do I do this with someone I haven't seen? That's why Yeshua said, wow, oh, how blessed are those who have not seen and they still believe. I mean, we believe, but do we believe? I mean, I believe the whole thing. Do you believe the whole thing? Do you believe everything he's saying here? It doesn't mean you understand it, but do you believe it? Because if you can read it and be like, how does this practically affect me right now, Father? We jump into chapter 23. And in chapter 23, he's saying, one of the things he says is don't expose your father's nakedness. We covered that, right? I think this is cool. If you make a little note, he's telling us now that if you're a Moabite, that you can't enter the land until 10 generations, right? If a man, say, would marry a Moabite man would marry a Hebrew woman, it would be 10 generations for descendants to be able to enter the land. They have to be like cleansed, and they can't just keep marrying Moabites. It would have to be then, marrying other Hebrews. And so then they would be Israelite. They would all be Hebrews in that 10 generations. So Abraham to Salmoa is 10 generations. And then Boaz is the 11th generation. Did I say that right? Boaz is the 11th generation. So the reason I bring that up is because remember, Ruth is a Moabite. Now, women could become Israelites because they would remember they're bringing women in and they could marry them. So she was already married to a Hebrew man. But when she came back in, that was one of the reasons why the kinsman redeemer didn't want her, because he was like, oh my gosh, my children, I don't want to mess up this bloodline thing because she's a Moabite. I don't want to deal with it. But Boaz was willing to do it. Boaz was willing to step in and give the inheritance of the children. And the children that first son would not have been considered his son. The first son was considered her husband's son. That's why her mother-in-law is the one who raised him, because he would have been a way of protecting, which if we have time, we could talk about. He would have been the way of protecting that legacy. Okay, what else do I have? I don't know why I wrote this. I put, you don't have to make everyone okay. Okay. Oh, I see. He goes in. Oh, right here. When he's going in here and he's talking about when you're going into the Moabites and and everything, he says, you don't have to make them okay. Don't worry about them. I don't want you to get all. He says that you are not to seek their shalom or their welfare. And I want to just say, maybe you're struggling with someone and you feel like the Holy One is telling you to leave them alone, but you still feel like you have to go back and make sure they're okay. But you know that their mess is interfering with what he's trying to do in your life. You know that they are not living a godly life. You know that they are interfering with your inheritance and your legacy and what he's called you to. You can love them from afar, but he's telling you it's not your job to make them okay. He says you're not to seek their shalom or their welfare. It's not your job. It's not your weed to pull. Step back. Unless he tells you to do it, don't do it. Because most of the time we're getting in the way of something he's trying to do. Then he says the Egyptians and the Edomites, they need to wait 3 generations before they enter the community, but they're not to be treated like the Moabites, right? And then this is really interesting. He starts talking about, I want you guys to carry shovels around. When you are in an army, you were out, it was very important to keep the camp clean. It's especially when you're out and about, but the men were to carry like a little shovel so that you need to take care of your own mess. You need to dig a little thing, you need to bury it, and then, we all make a mess sometimes. I don't even have to use the proper verbiage here. You can read it. One of the stories you can think about was with Saul and David. David didn't go where he was supposed to go, didn't have a little shovel, didn't clean up his own mess, and that's when David could have killed him. He exposed himself. I think, again, this is a great place to remind you guys of this podcast coming out. We're going to do it on September 20th. It's called The Messy Antics. I can't wait to just interview teachers, to interview leaders in this faith, to hear about their testimonies, the times when they needed a shovel to cover up their mess. Because the bottom line is this: when you make a mess, do you clean it up, or are you waiting for everyone else to clean it up for you? I have a granddaughter who is super mindful, and she picks up after herself. And I have one she's the baby of the family. So she's used to everybody cleaning up after her. So we're teaching her right now, she has to clean up after herself, clean up her own messes. Well, her sister is very quick to come in to help her. And it's like, it almost pleases her. And we have to say, honey, please let her do this because she has to learn. Do we jump in to help others and we don't let them build the muscle or the character of cleaning up after themselves? Because that's love. Love lets somebody else make a mess and then have to clean it up. It's difficult to step back and be like, oh, did you bring the shovel? Because you're going to have to dig and cover that, and it smells and there's flies. Why? Because the Father's walking through, and he was saying, I'm coming in, and we need to keep the camp clean. This is a sanitation issue, but can I talk to you maybe more on a character issue? Can we talk about other things? I'm laughing. I wrote a note to myself. I think we should all look for the new book now. It's Not Your Mess to Bury. Because life gets messy. And we want to pretend like it's not messy. But we're like, a lot of times we're not even we're not cleaning up after ourselves. And it's okay. Things happen. And he says, this is going to happen. So here's a provision. I want you to make sure you take your shovel and you clean it up, because I want to be able to walk among you, and I can't if that's there. He's saying, come on, get your mess cleaned up. I can't hang out with you in that sin. So would you cover up the poo-poo? Dig a hole, put the poo-poo in there, cover it up. Can you do that? Because I want to be with you. I don't want other people covering your mess up. And I don't want you covering up other people's messes. Let them shovel their own stuff, clean it all up themselves. Is that making sense? Is that harsh? There's so much. I'm gonna recommend for you as you go through this and read about in chapter 24 about marriage and divorce. I want to highly encourage you. It's a super cheap book. It's like $5 maybe on Amazon. Dr. Robin Gould, Gould, has a book, Divorce and Remarriage in the Bible. It will change your life. It will definitely change your perspective. Understanding what a writ of divorce is, the difference between putting someone away and giving them a writ of divorce, and why they would be adultery because they hadn't gotten fully divorced properly. It's very, very, very important. It's important that you understand our identity is that we take care of the orphans, the widows, the strangers. That's what makes us different. We're talking about love. I can't even go into the last part about this erasing the Amalek. I just want to say that, again, we're back to this. Amalek, they attacked the vulnerable. They came from behind and attacked those that were weak and tired. People were emotionally drained. If you look back and see, even Moshe was physically drained and had to have his arms held up for the battle. Can I just say, coming after those that are physically and emotionally wounded, he does not tolerate that. He's not tolerating. That's why he says in Isaiah, I'm going to cover you. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. I'm taking care. I know you're tired. I know stuff's going on, but he's there for you. Gosh, we're done. I have to go. I love you guys. I can't wait to see you next week. I don't want to get in trouble from the producers. So have a blessed week. Mwah! Shalom.
זה שיר פשוט, זה שיר קצר, אולי נשמע טיפה מוזר, אבל תדע, כי זו עובדה שלא
are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the Messianic